Superfest is here, which means free rewards for everybody. I've casted Brawl Stars professionally for 3 years and will even be in Finland casting this event. So today I'm going to share all my knowledge and predictions for day 1 to give you guys the best chance possible at earning every single reward. When you vote for day number 1, it is going to be through the group stage. This means that there are going to be 4 groups of 3 with every single team within the group playing each other. The top 2 seeds from each group will advance to day number 2. So we've got a lot of matches to cover, and to start us off is going to be Group A, where there are 3 different regions competing between Foot, SK Gaming, and Elevate. All these teams have pretty different paths to get here. 2 of them directly qualified to the World Finals. SK Gaming is the number 3 seed in EMEA, and Elevate through the number 1 seed. Most recently in the BSC, Foot had to fight through the LCQ. Foot had an absolute dominant run through LCQ though. They beat Tribe and VN Esporting 2-0 in their group stage, and then won day 2 3-0 against Toxic Lotus, the best team from Mainland China. Recently we saw Elevate perform quite well too. They got first in the Blast Bash for North America, where they did not drop a single set in top 8. In the grand finals, beat number 2 seed and in this tournament from North America, KCP. SK had a great result in the same tournament, but the EMEA edition getting 2nd place, beating Reply Totem in the opening round of 8, and then also losing to Humble 3-2 in a very close one in the grand final. Outside of that though, SK Gaming are actually the only team in this group that didn't get 2 grand finals victories this year. They only have 1, which is still great, but it came in the very first month. I don't doubt their LAN experience though, and the same can be said for Foot as well. Both of these rosters have some historic, great players that have played at the global and world stage many times. Yashi even got top 4 last year in the semifinals for the same roster, SK Gaming. Pekka and Motep, 2 players for Foot. 2023 lost to 2 of the best teams in the entire plane in their group stage. They ended up facing STMN and Zeta, which is a little bit of a tough break, obviously. As for Elevate, LAN experience is definitely a little bit more of a concern. 2 of their starters have yet to take the world stage, and RBM has never won a match at this global stage. RBM played for 2023 CMG NA and lost in the group stage at LCQ, and then 2022 Vatra's team lost 3-0 to Reply Totem. That means that between these 3 starters, there are 0 wins on the world final stage to date. That could all change, of course, though, at this group stage in A. I think SK are going to get the popular vote here, and that would be where my gut is going. I think these 3 players, despite having a little bit of an up and down year, are phenomenal at the global stage. Lenon is insane. Joker's had great success, and obviously Yashi proved himself more than enough last year with his underdog story. Foot and Elevate is a closer call for me though. Foot were right there with SSG during the regular season and had a flawless run at LCQ, which gives them that confidence and momentum. Elevate's just a huge question mark, but at the end of the day, I think Elevate have enough talent, have proven to me through getting through North America that they are good enough to make it to day number 2. When push comes to shove though, here's what I'm going with. In Elevate versus SK, I'm going with SK 2-1 over Elevate. The second match is SK versus Foot. I will go SK Gaming in a 2-1 victory over Foot, and to decide it all between Foot and Elevate, I will go Elevate 2-1. This would put SK Gaming as the number 1 seed in this group and Elevate as the number 2. Our second group, Group B, might be the most controversial ones among fans at home. Once again, we've got 3 different teams from 3 different regions. This group bolsters Pioneers, SSG, and Reply Totem. Reply Totem, the team that made it through LCQ to get into this group, has one of the most interesting stories of the entire year. Reply Totem were actually the number 6 seed in EMEA. They only made 4 or 5 monthly finals. They got 1 grand finals win, and outside of that, lost in the first round every single month they participated in. They even missed the top 8 in June. However, they did have an impressive LCQ, and I think momentum riding alongside that is a very important thing to consider. They got 2-0 wins over Navi and Toxic Lotus in their group stage, and a 3-2 victory over Tribe Gaming in one of the best matches in the entire year. As for SSG and Pioneers, it was a much less stressful year. SSG were the number 1 seed in SA, where they got 3 grand finals victories, and Pioneers tied for first in North America with 2 grand finals wins alongside Elevate Gaming, who were that number 1 seed. And to be honest with you, Pioneers were right there to having that number 1 seed. It came down to the final month where they played Elevate. They lost 3-2, and because of that 1-set loss, they lost in the semifinals rather than making it to the grand finals, which would have held the line for them and given them the number 1 seed. I always like pointing out LAN experience too, and this group has plenty of it among SSG and Reply Totem. Obviously, Maru and Mari need no introduction. They are international champions. They won SPS Japan last year with this organization. iChaos is one of the best players in all time at the LAN setting, in my opinion. And then also SSG have had some really really impressive showings with their players. They've just happened to play some of the best teams in the history of the game. I think an underrated storyline is since 2021, the members of SSG have lost to either the second or first place finishers at the World Finals, and sometimes both. So they might just be better than we think. For example, in 2023, Nouns lost in the group stage to STMN and Zeta, first and second at that World Finals. That's the team that Firecrow was a part of. The year before that, in 2022, Adinho and Firecrow played for CMG BR, which lost to Zeta Division 0 in a reverse sweep 3-2 in the opening round of the World Finals. As for Pioneers, LAN experience is a legitimate concern. Payne and Juan Carlos have played together before. In 2022, they were a part of the Vatra team that lost 3-0 to Reply Totem in the opening round. Outside of that, Juan Carlos, Payne, and Second Best haven't quite made it in person for a World Finals event. Between the three of them, I think they've only won one match in person at a LAN event. I think it's worth pointing out too that Pioneers are coached by arguably the best the game's ever seen. They have Coach Philip, who has been associated with greatness for a long time. In 2022, he was a part of CMG EU, which became the what you know today as Zeta Division World Champions of 2023. It's the exact same roster. Pioneer's story is not quite finished yet, but I do think for me, they are going to be the underdogs of this group. I think there are going to be a lot of mixed opinions on this group, but here's how I'm going with it. I am going to believe that Reply Totem and the stuff that they have shown as players, individuals, and a team in the past is enough to push them through this group. In the opening match of Pioneers versus SSG, I'm going to predict that SSG win 2-1. In match 2, SSG plays Reply Totem. I'm going to go Reply Totem 2-1. And to finish the group off, Pioneers versus Reply Totem, I'm going to go Reply Totem 2-0 over Pioneers. This would put Totem as the #1 seed in this group and SSG as the #2. If you're a longtime Brawl esports fan, you know that sometimes at these group events, there are what's called a group of death, and Group C is definitely that. This was immediately identified as the group of death after the drawing for LCQ. We had CR and Zeta Division get paired together, two world caliber teams and probably the two favorites of the entire event, and the LCQ team that was unlucky enough to get pulled into this group happened to be LG. CR and Zeta obviously need no introduction from what they've done, but LG definitely had a mixed bag compared to last year in getting here. While their year wasn't necessarily the strongest, people forget that LG nearly altered Brawl Stars history. They lost 2-3, nearly reverse sweeping the future champions of 2023 Zeta Division in the opening round of the top 8 just last year. If you're gonna make a criticism, one tiny criticism that people have given Crazy Raccoon in the past is their drafting. However, last year, the 2023 World Finals, their group performance was unbelievable. They came in with a game plan and they executed it to perfection. They won 3-0 twice over SK Gaming and Foot, both phenomenal teams at the time. With all the history and success in this group, I am going to bet that CR can do something similar and replicate what they did last year. If you give these guys ample prep time, their mechanics are as good as it gets, and if they have a draft strategy in play and can prep for their opponent for multiple weeks, I think it's gonna be hard to top them. Considering that Zeta Division also lost one of their group stage matches last year and ended up winning the whole thing, I think it's okay to go away with one win. It's still possible for any of these teams to go on and win the entire thing, even with a loss. So I think Zeta Division will survive once again with a loss, and here's how I'm predicting the matches. Starting this group off is Crazy Raccoon versus Zeta Division, where I will go Crazy Raccoon beating Zeta Division 2-1. After that, Zeta Division play LG. I have Zeta Division beating LG 2-1. And finally, in Crazy Raccoon versus Luminosity, I will have Crazy Raccoon winning it 2-0. This would put CR as the #1 seed in this group and Zeta Division as the #2. Finally, we have a lot of unproven names in Group D. This is Humble, Eternal Fire, and Rivals. Huge contrast in the regular season between all of these teams. Humble got 1 Grand Finals victory, 3 second places, and 1 semifinals performance, which is consistency in a very tough region. They also recently won the Blast Brawl EMEA tournament, where they beat SK Gaming in the Grand Finals 3-2, which is another team in this tournament. EF were the LCQ team in this group, and they certainly made a splash. They were the 5th seed in EMEA and won through LCQ over STMN Esports EU 3-2. Their regular season was definitely not the best though. 0 Grand Finals wins. They did have 1 Grand Finals appearance and only 2 semifinal showcases. As for the only APAC team in this group, Rival Esports had 1 Grand Finals win throughout the regular season and were the #2 seed in APAC overall. I think the biggest thing to point out with this group is the lack of LAN experience compared to others. Starting with EF, Gugu, 0 World Finals, Mebius, 0 World Finals, and of course we all know Opay's got it from 2023 SK team that made it all the way to the semifinals. Outside of Semantic, Lukey has never played in the World Finals, and the only time that Boss played in the World Finals, he lost in reverse sweep fashion to STMN Esports in one of the best comebacks in World Finals history. As for Rival, Milcreo has not qualified for Worlds since 2020. Melty, 0 World Finals experience, and Shu, no World Finals experience. There's little LAN events shared amongst all these guys outside of Semantic. This goes to show that all 3 of these teams don't necessarily have the LAN LAN experience or deep runs at these in-person tournaments. All of these teams have done great in the online series, but now the big lights in the big stage are going to be in front of them, and I gotta see who kind of rises to that occasion. So for my predictions, starting off, we've got Rival versus Humble, where I'll go Humble winning 2-0. Next up, Humble versus EF, where I'll go Humble winning 2-1 over EF. And finally, to decide the group, Rival versus EF, I will go EF 2-0. This would make Humble my number 1 seed from this group and EF my number 2. Finally, in this video, I'm going to give my top 5 most likely teams to win the entire event. Obviously, this is a best of 3 in the group stage. Anything can happen, as you all have seen in the past with monthly qualifiers, LCQ, etc. Maybe I get the order wrong, but either way, I think it's important just to kind of see the bird's eye view of how I feel about these teams as a whole. So starting us off is number 5, Humble, who are the number 1 seed in EMEA, had a super impressive regular season, blew my mind and many teams out there. But I'm gonna make them prove me wrong again. It's not that they can't win it, I just think given the path and the LAN experience, they might not be the most likely to win it. The way I have it in my current bracket, Humble would get the number 1 seed. They would be playing SSG, which I think is very manageable, but I think closer than people would expect. I think SSG deserve a little more credit than the public's probably giving them. After that, I would have them playing SK or Zeta Division, which is definitely matches that have been very close for them in the past and even some losses. They are still an excellent team. They've definitely got what it takes, but considering they haven't done it at LAN in the past, I want them to prove me wrong once again. Number 4 favorite to win it all is going to be Reply Totem. I think that might surprise some people, but I don't think it really should. I think there are going to be plenty of people out there that don't even have Reply Totem coming out of their group, which is reasonable considering their regular season, but I believe in these guys. iChaos has been phenomenal to LAN setting. Mari, phenomenal with this Reply Totem core for years, since 2021. They have delivered every single year, beating good teams, making at least a little bit of distance in the tournament, and really the last few years, the biggest problem for Reply Totem is they're running into Crazy Raccoon at these tournaments. The matchups are predetermined, so Totem's group would be facing off against Group D's second place. I have Totem winning their group, meaning that I would have them likely playing EF, and I think Reply Totem can get a win over EF in about a 3-1 fashion. That's how I would have it if they ended up playing. After that, obviously things get much tougher. They would be playing Crazy Raccoon or Zeta Division more than likely, and I would have Elevate being the other team from that group, which would be competitive opponent in the semifinals no matter who they play. But I think Totem's got a pretty high ceiling as well. I think in person they've proven it. In the online format, maybe they didn't as much, but LCQ was good enough for me. I think these guys got a long shot. Number 3, another European team. I just think the region's really good this year. It's going to be SK Gaming for me. SK Gaming have been very competitive against the tippy top of EMEA the entire year. They've got a ton of potential. They've been an underdog in the past before, and the org itself has had a lot of success. Joker, Lanon, Yashi. That is a superpower team. Sometimes it's that simple. Just look at the names and see what they can do. In terms of pathing to get there, I have them playing Zeta Division in the opening round. I think Zeta Division would be favorites in that spot, but SK have played them close plenty of times before. If they can get past that opponent, I would have them playing either Humble or SSG, and I would have SK favored in either of those matchups. I think if SK can make it past that quarterfinal, they've got a good chance to possibly go to the grand finals. Our final 2 teams I think are given, and many people could probably predict. My number 2 is going to be CR, and my number 1 is going to be Zeta Division. CR have a 2-time world champion in Tensai. Satampo's won 1 himself. Moyagoku's been to the grand finals. There's so much history and success. This is the super team of APAC and arguably the best mechanical players of all time. On the other end, Zeta Division beat the CR team 3-2 in a close one last year, so CR could certainly get revenge, get the number 1 seed from this group, and go all the way to the grand finals. But Zeta Division are the defending world champions, and I know they were only the number 2 seed in their region, but at the end of the day, they haven't been in a number 1 seed and have lost in a group stage before, and even still gotten to the world finals and won it all. I think they deserve to be a top of the power rankings, if you will, the favorites to win it all. CR and Zeta Division will be the top 2 for me. Thank you all so much for watching, and be sure to get your predictions in at event.brawlstars.com. Really appreciate all the support I've gotten this year through casting, and excited to do it for one more. So with that being said, we'll see you all on stage in Finland.